Hello. Welcome to day 74 of the Daily Bread. We'll be reading from the Scriptures 2009. We'll be in Exodus 35, reading also from 2 Samuel 4, Psalm 78, Proverbs 12, Luke 19. We'll finish up with Exodus 35 on page 95. And Moshe assembled all the congregation of the children of Israel and said to them, These are the words, capital W, which Yahweh has commanded you to do. Work is done for 6 days, but on the seventh day it shall be set apart to you. So he's putting out there again the Sabbath day here. Shall be set apart to you, a Sabbath of rest to Yahweh. Anyone doing work on this day is put to death. Do not kindle a fire in any of your dwellings on the Sabbath day. And Moshe spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, This is the word which Yahweh commanded, saying, Take from among you a contribution to Yahweh. Everyone whose heart so moves him, let him bring it to as a contribution to Yahweh: gold, silver, and bronze, and blue, and purple, and scarlet material, and fine linen, goat's hair, ram skins, dyed red, and fine leather, and acacia wood, and oil for the light, and spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, and shoham stones, and stones to be set in the shoulder garment and in the breastplate. And let all the wise-hearted among you come and make all that Yahweh has commanded: the dwelling place, its tent and its covering, its hooks and its boards, its bars, its columns and its sockets, the ark and its poles, the lid of atonement and the veil of the covering, the table and its poles and all its utensils, and the showbread, and the lampstand for the light, and its utensils and its lamps, and all the oil for the light, and the incense slaughter place, and its poles, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the covering for the door of the entrance to the dwelling place, the slaughter place of ascending offering with its bronze grating, its poles, and all its utensils, the basin and its stand, the screens of the courtyard, its columns and their sockets, and the covering for the gate of the courtyard, the pegs of the dwelling place, and the pegs of the courtyard and their cords, the woven garments to do service in the set-apart place, the set-apart garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to serve as priests. And all the congregation of the children of Israel withdrew from the presence of Moshe, and everyone whose heart was lifted him up, and everyone whose spirit moved him came, and they brought the contribution to Yahweh for the work of the tent of appointment, and for all its service, and the set-apart garments. And they came, both men and women, whose hearts moved them, and brought earrings, and nose rings, and rings, and necklaces, and golden goods, even every one who made a wave offering of gold to Yahweh. And every man with whom was found blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine linen, and goat hair, and ram skins dyed red, and fine linen brought them. Everyone who made a contribution to Yahweh of silver or bronze brought it. And everyone with whom was found acacia wood for work of the services brought it. And all the wise-hearted women spun yarn with their hands and brought what had been spun, the blue and purple, the scarlet material, and the fine linen. And all the women whose hearts lifted them up in wisdom spun the goats of hair. And the rulers brought shoham stones, and the stones to be set in the shoulder garment of and in the breastplate, and the spices and the oil for the light, and the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense. The children of Israel brought a voluntary offer to Yahweh, all the men and women whose heart moved them to bring all kinds of work, which Yahweh by the hand of Moshe had commanded to be done. And Moshe said to the children of Israel, See, Yahweh has called my name Betzalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and he has filled him with the spirit of Elohim, in wisdom, in understanding, and knowledge, and in all work, to make designs, to work in gold, and in silver and bronze, and in cutting of stones of setting, and in wood carving, and to work in all workmanship of design. And he put it in his heart the ability to teach him. He is, and we do line 34 here, verse 34 here. And he, Yahweh, has put it in his heart the ability to teach him in him. And Ohalab, son of Ashmi, the tribe of Dan, he has filled them with skill to do all the work of the engraver and the design embroiderer in blue and in purple and in scarlet material and in fine linen, and a weaver doing any work and makers of designs. End of Exodus 35. Moving on to 2 Samuel chapter 4 on page 320. And the son of Shaul heard that Abner had died in Hebron, and he lost heart, and all Israel was troubled. And the son of Shaul had 2 men, commanders of bands, and the name of one was Bahin, and the name of the other was Rebek, sons of Rimmon the Bernite of the children of Benjamin. And Bermoth was also reckoned to Benjamin, because of the Bermoth fled to Gideon and have been sojourners there until this day. Now Jonathan, son of Shaul, had a son who was lame in his feet. He was 5 years old when the news about Shaul and Jonathan came from Israel, and his nurse took him and fled. And it came to be, as she hurried to flee, that he fell and became lame. And his name was Mephibosheth. So the sons of Ramon, the Berthite, Rebek and Bahan, went and came at about the heat of day to the house of Ishabeth, who was lying in his bed at noon. And they came into the midst of the house to fetch wheat, and they struck him in the stomach. And Rebek and Bahin, his brother, escaped. Thus they came into the house when he was lying on his bed in his bedroom, and they struck him and slew him and beheaded him. And they took his head and went the way of the desert plain all night, and brought the head of Ishibeth to David at Hebron, and said to the sovereign, See, the head of Ishibeth, the son of Shaul, your enemy, who sought your life. So Yahweh has given my master the sovereign vengeance on Shaul and his seed this day. And David answered Rebek and Bahan, his brother, sons of Ramon the Berthite, and said to them, As Yahweh lives, who has ransomed my life out of all distress, When someone reported to me saying, Shaw is dead, see, Shaw is dead, and he was a bearer of the good news in his own eyes, I then took hold of him and killed him in Segal, which was the reward I gave him for his news. How much more, when wrong men have killed a righteous man in his own house on his bed, should I now require his blood at your hand, and remove you from the earth? And David commanded his young men, and they killed them, and cut off their hands and feet, and hanged them by the pool in Hebron. And they took the head of Ishboth, and buried it in the burial site of Abner in Hebron. Moving on to Psalm 78 on page 689. My people, give ear to my Torah. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I open my mouth in a parable. I utter riddles of old, which we have heard and known. For our fathers have related them to us. We do not hide them from their children, relating to the generation to come the praises of Yahweh, and his strength and his wonders, which he has done. For he has raised a witness in Jacob, and set a Torah in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, to teach them to their children. Then it might be known to a generation to come, to children who would be born, to raise up and relate them to their children, and place their trust in Elohim, and not forget the works of Elohim, but watch over his commands, and not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation. A generation which did not prepare its heart, whose spirit was a steadfast to El. The children of Ephraim, armed bowmen, turned back in the day of battle. They did not guard the covenant of Elohim. They refused to walk in his Torah, and they forgot his deeds and his wonders which he had shown them. He did wonders in the sight of their fathers, in the land of Mizraim, in the field of Soan. He split the sea and caused them to pass through, and he made the water stand up like a heap. And he led them with the cloud by day, and all the night with a light of fire. He split the rocks in the wilderness, and made them drink as from great depths, and brought forth streams from the rock, and caused waters to come down as rivers. Yet they sinned against him, to rebel against the Most High in the desert. And they tried El in their heart, by asking food according to their desire. And they spoke against Elohim. They said, Is El able to set a table in the wilderness? Look, he struck the rock, so that the water gushed out, and the streams overflowed. Is he able to give bread also? Would he provide meat for his people? Therefore Yahweh heard, and he was wroth. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and displeasure also came up against Israel, because they did not believe in Elohim, neither did they trust in his deliverance. Yet he had commanded the clouds above, and opened the doors of the heaven, and he rained down manna on them to eat, and he gave them the grain of the heavens. Men ate bread of the mighty. He sent them provisions to satisfaction. He made an east wind blow in the heavens, and by his power he brought in the south wind. And he rained meat on them like a dust, the winged birds like a sand of the seas, and let them fall in the midst of his camp. and all around his dwelling place. So they ate and were completely satisfied. And he brought them what they desired. They were not estranged from their desire. Their food was still in their mouths when the wrath of Elohim came against them, and he killed among their fat ones, and he struck down the choice ones of Israel. In spite of all this, they still sinned and did not believe in his wonders. So he ended their days with a breath and took and their years in trouble. When he killed them, then they sought him, and they returned and did earnestly seek El. When they remembered that Elohim was the rock, and the Most High El, their Redeemer, but they flattered him with their mouth, and they lied to him with their tongue, for their heart was not steadfast with him, and they were not true to his covenant. But he, the compassionate one, pardoned crookedness, and did not destroy them. And many a time he turned his displeasure away, and did not stir up all his wrath. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a passing breath that does not return. How often they rebelled against him in the wilderness, and grieved him in the desert. And again they tried El, and provoked the set apart one of Israel. They did not remember his hand, the day when he redeemed them from the adversary. How he worked his signs in Mizraim, and his wonders in the field of Soan. He turned their rivers into blood, and they could not drink their streams. And they sent among them swarms of flies, and he sent among them swarms of flies, which devoured them, and frogs which destroyed them, and gave their crops to the caterpillar, and their labor to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail, and their sycamore trees with frost, and he gave their beasts over to hail, their livestock to bolts of fire. He set them on the burning of his displeasure. Wrath and rage and distress, a deputation of messenger calls of evil. He made its path. He made a path for his displeasure. He did not spare their being from death. He gave their life over to the plague. He struck all the firstborn in Mizraim, the first fruits of strength in the tents of Ham, then made his own people go forth like sheep, and led them in the wilderness like a flock, and he led them on safely, and they did not fear. But the sea covered their enemies, and he brought them to the border of his set apart place, this mountain which his right hand had gained, and drove out nations before them, and allotted them as measured inheritance, and made the tribes of Israel dwell in their tents. Yet they tried and rebelled against the Most High El, and did not guard his witnesses. But they turned back and acted treacherously like their fathers. They twisted like a treacherous bow, for they enraged him with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their carved images. When Elohim heard this, he was wroth, and greatly despised Israel. And he left the dwelling place of Shiloh, the tent which he had set up among men. And he gave his strength into captivity, and his comeliness into the hand of the adversary. He gave his people over to the sword, and he was wroth with his inheritance. His young men were consumed by fire, and his maidens were not praised. His priests fell by the sword, and their widows could not weep. And when Yahweh awoke as one asleep, as a mighty man who shouts because of wine, he was struck, and he struck his adversaries backwards. He put them to an everlasting reproach. Then he rejected the tent of Joseph, but did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, but chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he had loved, and he built his set-apart place like the heights. Like the earth, he found it forever. And he chose David, his servant, to look, and took him from the sheepfolds. He brought him in front of tending the ewes, to his shepherd Israel, his people, and Israel his remembrance, as he shepherded them, according to the integrity of his heart, and led them by the skill of his hands. I've got 78, so kind of a long one. Not as long as 119, though. On the Proverbs 12 on page 739. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. The good obtains favor from Yahweh, but the man of wicked devices he declares wrong. A man is not established by wrongness, but the root of the righteous shall not be moved. A capable wife is the crown of her husband, but one causing shame is like rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are right ruling. The counsels of the wrong are deceit. The words of the wrong are lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the straight delivers them. The wrong are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous stands. But the house of the righteous stands. Okay, just that makes sense there. A man is praised according to his wisdom, but the perverted of heart becomes despised. Better to be lightly esteemed and have a servant than to be highly esteemed who lacks bread. The righteous regards the life of his beast, but the compassion of the wrong is cruelty. He who tills his land is satisfied with bread, but he who pursues vanity is lacking heart. The wrong shall covet the catch of evildoers, but the root of the righteous yields fruit. In the transgression of the lips is an evil snare, but the righteous gets out of distress. From the fruit of his mouth one is filled with good, and the work of a man's hands is given back to him. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who listens to advice is wise. A fool's wrath is known at once, but a clever one covers shame. He who speaks truth declares righteousness, but a false witness deceit. Rash speaking is like piercing of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is healing. The lip of truth is established forever, but a lying tongue is but for the moment. Deceit is in the heart of those who plot evil, but counselors of peace have joy. No harm befalls the righteous, but the wrong shall be filled with evil. Lying lips are an abomination to Yahweh, but those who deal truly are his delight. A clever man is concealing knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaims folly. The hand of the hard worker rules, but the lazy one is put to compulsory labor. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes him glad. The righteous is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wrong leads them astray. The lazy one has no game to roast, but the hard worker prizes his possessions. In the way of righteousness is life, and in the path there is no death. On to Luke. Doing pretty good, though. On to Luke 19 on page 1010. Very columns. So okay. And having entered, he was passing through Jericho, Yeshua, and see a man called Zacchaeus. And he was a tax collector, and he was rich. And he was seeking to see Yeshua. Let me start. 19. And having entered he, Yeshua, passing through Jericho, and see a man called Zacchaeus, and he was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. And he was seeking to see who. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah. And he was seeking to see who Yeshua was, but was unable because of the crowd, for he was small in stature. And having run ahead, he climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, because he was about to pass by. And as Yeshua came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I have to stay at your house today. That's kind of cool. And he hurried and came down and received him, rejoicing. And seeing it, they all grumbled, saying, He has gone in to stay with a man who was a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the master, Look, master, I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have taken whatever from anyone by false accusation, I repay fourfold. And Yeshua said to him, Today deliverance has come to this house, since he is also a son of Abraham. For the son of Adam has come to seek and to save what was lost. And as they were hearing this, he spoke another parable, because he was near Jerusalem, and they brought the reign of Elohim. And they thought the reign of Elohim was about to be manifested straight away. He therefore said, A certain nobleman went to a distant country to receive for himself a reign and to return. And calling 10 of his servants, he gave them 10 minas, and said to them, Trade until I come. But his subjects were hating him, and sent a delegation after him to say, We do not wish this one to reign over us. And it came to be, when he came back, having received the reign, that he sent for these servants to whom he had given the silver, in order to know what each one had gained by trading. And the first one came, saying, Master, your mina has earned 10 minas. And he said to him, Well done, good servant, because you are trustworthy in a small matter, have authority over 10 cities. The second came, saying, Master, your minas has earned 5 minas. And he said to him, And you be over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Master, here is your mina, which I kept laid up in the handkerchief. For I was afraid of you, because you are a hard man. You take up what you did not lay down, and reap what you did not sow. And he said to him, Out of your own mouth I shall judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was a hard man, taking up what I did not lay down, and reaping what I did not sow. Why did you not put the silver in the bank, that when I come I could have collected its interest? Then he said to those who stood by, Take the mina from him, and give it to him who possesses 10 minas. And they said to him, Master, he already possesses 10 minas. For I say to you, that to everyone who possesses shall be given, and from him who does not possess, even what he possesses shall be taken from him. But those enemies of mine who do not wish me to reign over them, bring them here and slay them before me. And having said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. And it came to be when he came near to Bethphage and Beth-anan at the mountain of Olives, that he sent 2 of his taught ones, saying, Go into the village opposite you, in which as you enter, you shall find a colt tied, on which no one has ever sat. Loosen it and bring it here. And if anyone asks you, Why do you loosen it? Thus you say to him, Because the master has need of it. And those who were sent away and found it as he had said to them. And as they were loosing the colt, the owner of it said to them, Why do you loosen the colt? And they said, The master needs it. And so they brought it to they brought it to Yeshua, Jesus. And throwing their garments on the colt, they set Yeshua on it. And as he went, they were spreading their garments on the way. And as he was coming near, already at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the entire crowd of the taught ones became rejoicing, to praise Elohim with a loud voice for all the miracles they had seen, saying, Blessed is the sovereign who is coming in the name of Yahweh. Peace in heaven and esteem the highest. And some of the Pharisees from the crowd said to him, Teacher, rebuke your taught ones. But he, answering, said to them, I say to you, that if these shall be silent, the stones would cry out. And as he came near, he saw the city and wept over it, saying, If you only knew even today the matters of your peace. But now they are hidden from your eyes. Because days shall come upon you when your enemies shall build a rampart around you, and surround you, and press you on all the sides, and dash you on the ground, and your children within you. And they shall not leave in you one stone upon another, because you did not know the time of your visitation. And having entered into the set-apart place, he began to drive out those selling and buying, saying to them, It has been written, My house is a house of prayer, but you made it a den of robbers. Joshua 56:7, and den of robbers is from Jeremiah 7:8. And he was teaching daily in the set-apart place. But the chief priests and the scribes and the leaders of the people were seeking to destroy him. But they did not find what they might do, for all the people were hanging upon him listening. Thank you for listening. Shalom. Make it a great day. Read your Bible. Talk to the Father.